In the shadows of Long Island's picturesque beaches lies a horrifying mystery that has haunted the community for years. Known as the Gilgo Beach murders, these chilling crimes revealed the presence of a predator who preyed on vulnerable women. Among the victims were Melissa Barthelemy and Megan Waterman, two young women whose tragic stories are at the heart of this unsolved case. Who was the Long Island serial killer? What drove their heinous actions? Join us as we explore the cases of Melissa and Megan, uncovering the fear, sorrow, and unanswered questions that continue to haunt their families and the nation. A chilling discovery. The Long Island serial killer case, often referred to as the Gilgo Beach murders, began unraveling in December 2010. A Suffolk County police officer conducting a routine training exercise with his cadaver dog near Gilgo Beach stumbled upon a grim scene: human remains wrapped in burlap. Initially believed to be an isolated discovery, further investigation revealed 3 more bodies in the same area within days. The grisly findings sent shockwaves through the tight-knit Long Island community. Over the next several months, the number of victims uncovered rose to 10, including men and a toddler. The remains painted a grim picture of a killer who had been active for years, carefully concealing their crimes in the remote marshlands. 2 of the victims, Melissa Barthelemy and Megan Waterman, emerged as central figures in the investigation. Their lives and deaths became a focus of law enforcement, shining a light on the vulnerability of women who, like many of the other victims, worked in the sex industry. Melissa Barthelemy, a life cut short. Melissa Barthelemy was a 24-year-old woman from Buffalo, New York. Described as ambitious and caring, Melissa dreamed of building a future as a cosmetologist in New York City. Like many young people, she was drawn to the energy and opportunity of the big city. However, the cost of living and financial struggles soon weighed heavily on Melissa. To make ends meet, she began working as an escort, advertising her services on Craigslist. Melissa kept this part of her life hidden from her family, who believed she was focused on her career goals. On July 10, 2009, Melissa left her Bronx apartment for what she told friends was a meeting with a client. That night, she disappeared without a trace. Her family's worry turned to despair when they began receiving disturbing phone calls from Melissa's cell phone. The anonymous caller taunted Melissa's younger sister, Amanda, making cruel remarks about Melissa's profession and claiming she had been killed. The calls were short, cryptic, and devastating. Despite law enforcement's efforts, the phone's location could not be pinpointed. It wasn't until December 2010, over a year later, that Melissa's remains were found along Gilgo Beach. Megan Waterman, a loving mother. Megan Waterman was just 22 years old when she disappeared in June 2010. A resident of Scarborough, Maine, Megan was a devoted mother to her young daughter. Described by friends and family as bubbly and kind-hearted, Megan had dreams of providing a better life for her child. Like Melissa, Megan turned to escort work as a means to support herself. She used Craigslist to connect with clients and often traveled out of state for her work. On June 6, 2010, Megan was staying at a motel in Hauppauge, Long Island, with her boyfriend. That night she left the motel, presumably to meet a client, and was never seen alive again. Megan's disappearance devastated her family, who immediately reported her missing. For months, they hoped for her safe return. Sadly, those hopes were shattered when Megan's remains were discovered alongside Melissa's in December 2010. The 2 women shared not only a tragic fate, but also chilling similarities in how their lives were taken. A killer's methods. The discovery of the Gilgo Beach victims revealed a terrifyingly methodical killer. Investigators noted several key patterns in the murders. Many of the victims were young women working in the sex industry, and most had advertised their services online. The killer appeared to target women who were vulnerable, using their professions as a means to lure them in. The use of burlap to wrap the bodies was another chilling hallmark of the crimes. It suggested a level of premeditation and careful planning. The killer's choice of location, remote marshlands along Long Island's southern shore, was strategic. making it difficult for law enforcement to locate the remains. The timeline of the killings added another layer of complexity. The remains found at Gilgo Beach spanned several years, indicating that the killer had been active for a long time and may have paused between murders. This intermittent pattern made it harder for investigators to track the killer's activities. The investigation and early leads. The Gilgo Beach murders sparked one of the largest investigations in New York's history. Local law enforcement, the Suffolk County Police Department, and the FBI worked together to uncover the truth behind the killings. Early in the investigation, police focused on Joseph Brewer, a Long Island resident who had hired one of the victims shortly before her disappearance. However, Brewer cooperated with authorities and was eventually cleared of suspicion. Another name that emerged was Dr. Peter Hackett, a physician who lived near Gilgo Beach. Hackett allegedly called the family of one victim after her disappearance, claiming to run a home for troubled women. While this raised eyebrows, no concrete evidence linked Hackett to the murders. Over the years, other suspects have been suggested, including convicted criminals and individuals with histories of violence against women. Yet, no definitive connection to the Gilgo Beach murders has been established. Families fight for justice. For the families of Melissa Barthelemy and Megan Waterman, the discovery of their loved ones' remains brought both heartbreak and a grim sense of closure. However, the lack of progress in finding the killer left them grappling with unanswered questions and a deep sense of injustice. Melissa's sister, Amanda, became a vocal advocate, sharing her family's story with the media to keep the case in the public eye. Similarly, Megan's family worked to honor her memory, emphasizing her love for her daughter and her dreams for a better life. Their advocacy has highlighted the need for greater protections and resources for vulnerable women, particularly those in the sex industry. The legacy of the Long Island serial killer. The Long Island serial killer remains an ominous figure in American criminal history. Despite years of investigation, no arrests have been made, and the case remains open. The Gilgo Beach murders have left a lasting impact on Long Island, transforming the serene shoreline into a grim reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the surface. For the victims' families, the pain of loss is compounded by the uncertainty of not knowing who took their loved ones' lives or why. The case also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers faced by vulnerable individuals and the need for society to provide better support and protection. While the victims' stories have been overshadowed by the sensational nature of the crimes, the tragic cases of Melissa Barthelemy and Megan Waterman stand as harrowing reminders of the lives claimed by the elusive Long Island serial killer. Both women, full of life and loved by their families, were taken far too soon, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and unhealed wounds. Found among the remains discovered along Gilgo Beach, their murders are part of a chilling series that has haunted investigators and the public for over a decade. Despite years of investigation, the identity of the killer remains a mystery. Authorities have explored various leads and suspects, yet the case has been hindered by a lack of definitive evidence and the calculated nature of the crimes. The Long Island serial killer is believed to have targeted vulnerable individuals, exploiting their circumstances to evade detection. This has sparked debates about law enforcement's handling of the case and society's need to protect its most vulnerable members. Advances in DNA technology and renewed investigative efforts give hope to the families of the victims. They seek not only justice, but also the closure that comes from knowing the truth. The case of Melissa and Megan, along with the other victims, underscores the importance of keeping these stories alive. What are your thoughts on the case? Do you think the killer will ever be identified, or does the mystery run too deep? Share your views in the comments below. If you're captivated by true crime stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Together, we can keep the victims' memories alive and continue advocating for justice.